I am part of the Wilsonville Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Real quick, everybody put your hands for our DJ today, Bryson Wallace. A native of Bakersfield/Oakland. All right. So real quick, just thank you all for joining us for the special day that's bringing us together for a special holiday that is a huge part of history of this country. We celebrate a holiday of abolishment of slavery. And as we continue, and also too, we're celebrating as we continue to reflect on the struggles that we still have, the struggles that people of color still go through. And as a community, we are celebrating the abolishment of slavery and what that meant for this country. And everybody who's here, that shows me that you acknowledge that part of history and you want to do your part in acknowledging it and help us all heal and move forward and build up the community. I want to thank a few of our sponsors for helping us make this event bigger and better. I want to thank our platinum sponsor, Swire Coca-Cola. That's where the waters are at. We got you in our hearts. We have the Hilton Garden Inn of Wilsonville. Thank you. And we also have the Oregon Institute of Technology. Thank you. Big up, shout out. To all of our sponsors, we appreciate your support and contributions in making this event happen. Thank you. I want to acknowledge some people. So first, I want to acknowledge Mayor Julie Fitzgerald. Where you at, Bobo? All right. We also got Councilor Dunwell. Oh yes. And I just saw people in the crowd. We got Councilor Ackervall right here. We also got our state representative Courtney Neron. Where you at? Hey, there you are. Just seeing you. Also too, we got the city manager Brian Cosgrove right here with his wife. And then and all the community members. We got who's here? Jay Ehrman, right here over too. And
Carla and Asha.
Man.
There's a lot of them.
Everybody's here for the community. Thank you. And thank you, Bill, for your help. And so today we have a keynote speaker. And to get that going, I will pass the mic to our chair, Ehrman Hader.
All right, thank you. We can't forget to thank Zoe. She's right there. She's amazing. Seriously, thank you. You did such a great job organizing, and we appreciate it. So, obviously, cliche, but I am humbled to see a lot of our community members here. It's great. I mean, these events mean a lot, whether or not people show up, but when people show up, it makes it that much more meaningful. So I have this saying, my cheesy saying is, just because it's been done a certain way for decades doesn't mean it's the right way. And change in our culture can be tough, but it's necessary in many different aspects of life. And Juneteenth is one of the examples of that change. So a lot of people grew up in the K through 12 system here, went to school, never learned about it, never heard about it. And hopefully that's changing. And one of the steps for that to change is to acknowledge it as a official holiday. It's a federal holiday finally, so we can give a hand for it being acknowledged as an actual federal holiday, which is really cool. So as Trey said, my name's Imran Haider. I'm the chair. Well, I'm just a member of the DEI committee, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. I will say it out all the way, which was established by the Wilsonville City Council in May 2021. And I'll read you the mission statement for accuracy. Our mission is to connect Wilsonville to diverse perspectives and lived experiences of its people. We advocate for equitable access and opportunity for every community member. We identify barriers to participation and inclusion and pursue programs, policies, partnerships, and ideas that remove those barriers. So in short, I think paraphrasing or trying to translate that to just an easy sentence is, we like to open doors for people that maybe historically did not have those doors open for them. So with that said, I'm pleased to be at our third annual Juneteenth celebration. This was one of our first events, or the first event that we did in an official/unofficial capacity in May of 21. And obviously, for those who are unaware, Juneteenth celebrates the official end of slavery. Juneteenth is shorthand for June 19th, the date in 1865 that slaves in Galveston, Texas were made aware of their freedom by Union troops, more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation became effective. A year later, the first Juneteenth celebrations occurred for their 1-year anniversary of abolition. Our committee's first act, like I said, was to celebrate the significance, and we're super proud of the development of this event. So, again, can't thank you enough as a community, and then obviously our sponsors are the ones that are making this possible by donating food and books, and all the cool stuff that you see in front of you is a product of our community coming together to support an event like this. So next, I'm excited to introduce a brilliant and motivated keynote speaker for today. She is a founder and executive director of nonprofit People of Color Outdoors. People of Color Outdoors has a mission to help Black, Indigenous, and people of color in the Portland area gain access to natural spaces, outdoor skills, education, as well as health and wellness practices. People of Color Outdoors is making a powerful, positive impact in the Portland, Oregon area. Pamela was a Portland Parks Champion nominee in 2021. Pamela and People of Color Outdoors were both nominated for the Portland Parks Foundation's first annual Joey Pope Award in 2022. Pamela was honored to be the first winner of the Joey Pope Award and the $10,000 prize. People of Color Outdoors has hosted over 300 outings since 2017 and has provided access to nature to thousands of persons from the BIPOC community. We're delighted to present this year's keynote speaker, Pamela Slaughter. Give her a hand.
Thank you. I'm really honored to be here. And I'm prepared. I got my notes, got my shirt with the fringe on it, and that prevents me from having awkward pauses, because if something happens and I get distracted by a butterfly, I could just do like that. And you guys will be looking at the fringe, and the awkward pause won't be there. I'm really honored to be here. I love that Wilsonville is celebrating this important holiday. It's a holiday that my family has celebrated for years and years, but most of America really didn't know about, so I appreciate this. I know the sweet sound of bird calls and water flowing over rocks. I know pine-scented air, the peace of deep shade, and the solid presence of towering trees. I know that nature soothes, heals, energizes, sparks creativity, inspires, awes, nurtures, teaches, liberates, humbles. I learned as a 10-year-old that people can't live a full experience unless we spend regular time in nature. I loved the outdoors as a child. Being a native Oregonian, it's hard to get away from loving nature. But when I was 10, 3 things happened to me to really solidify that love. The first was my Uncle John moved to a small farm outside of Portland. I remember jumping from the hayloft into the hay, catching frogs at the pond, and sitting for hours in a big tree reading or just watching the wildlife. Sometimes he put me to work, milking the goats, feeding the chickens, and collecting eggs. Caring for the animals gave me a sense of confidence and competence. Exploring the pond gave me a sense of adventure. Learning to identify the different plants, the frogs, the crayfish, the insects, and the many waterfowl and other birds, it made me feel like my world was a big and exciting place. The second thing that happened when I was 10 was I went to camp for the first time, Camp Westwind. Most camps in Oregon were segregated when I was a child. A lot of them were. And Camp Westwind had the intention to make it integrated. So they literally walked in our neighborhood and knocked on doors looking for black girls to go to camp. And I was one of 3 that my parents said yes. So we went to Camp Westwind, which is, how many of you have been there? Okay, so Camp Westwind is close to Lincoln City. It is a peninsula, feels like an island. You take a ferry across the Salmon River to get to it. It's absolutely beautiful. How many of you have been to Cascade Rock, Cascade Head? So Cascade Head, when you're at the top of Cascade Head, you are looking down at Camp Westwind. And it's bordered by the Pacific Ocean on one side, so you're right there at the beach. You have the coast, and then you have a secondary old growth forest if you hike in. So it's a really beautiful place. But we took a ferry, and that was my first boat ride ever. I got to look into the water. I could see fish swimming around, crabs walking around. And then when we got to our cabin, my cabin was surrounded by big, beautiful trees. Out the door, there was a path that led to a bluff looking over the ocean. It was an amazing place to be. I was 10. I was obsessed with Harriet Tubman at the time. I adored everything about her. And I thought about her at night a lot. So there I was in the woods in my cabin thinking about Harriet Tubman and wondering what it would be like to find my way down to the river, feeling the moss on the trees like she did. So when the other girls went to sleep, I got dressed and I snuck out of the cabin. And I went out in the dark, feeling the trees, looking for the moss that told me where north was. Well, it didn't take long to figure out that there's moss on the whole tree in Oregon. And so I decided I wouldn't try to find the river. I'd just hike my way up that bluff. So I went up there to the top of the bluff, and looking down, I could see the white tips of the foam from the waves. I could see tons of stars, and so I couldn't even pick out which one was probably the North Star. So I just focused on listening to what was around me. I could hear owls hooting. I could hear the waves crashing. I smelled the water, and I could hear rustling around, which I imagined they were all bunnies. Now there's a sign at that exact same spot that says, "This is bear and cougar country," and it gives you directions on what to do if you encounter a bear or a cougar. But at the time, I didn't know about that, so it was all bunnies. And it was a magical time. It made me feel adventurous. It sparked my curiosity. It fed my desire to explore. And that feeling is still with me. Kind of started there. The third thing that happened when I was 10 was I visited my mom's family in Chicago. And I spent a lot of time in Chicago feeling kind of stunned and really kind of disturbed and unhappy because I wasn't used to being in a big city. I saw a lot of cement there. and the heat bounced off of the cement. There weren't a lot of trees in certain people's neighborhoods as I explored. So some of my relatives lived in areas that had little parks and trees, and some lived in high rises where there were no trees at all. And I kept asking to go for a walk in the woods, and there were no woods to walk in very close by. So when I finally got home at the end of the summer, I was stressed. I got on my bike and I went to a nearby wooded area, and a weight just like literally rolled off my shoulders when I heard the alarm calls by the birds. It was such a relief to hear that. I hadn't heard that for months. I climbed my favorite tree, dug my little bag out of the bike basket, had my lunch in it and some books and a journal, and I just stayed there until it started to get a little bit dark and it was time to go home. Now, I was only 10 years old at the time, but I realized that summer that I needed the woods in order to feel good and in order to be happy. And I remember sitting in that tree, reflecting back on my experience in Chicago and thinking about the kids there that were unhappy. And I really believed that if they just had woods nearby, they would be happier. I would lead my friends on little excursions through the woods, but when I got older, and this is in Portland, my friends wanted to go to the malls more, because that's where the boys were. And so I started going out alone by myself more and more often. As I got older, I started to hear stories about people and their experiences in the woods. And I found out that the woods could be a dangerous place for Black people, especially in Oregon. Oregon was an exclusionary state that didn't allow us to live here legally. And there are still a lot of people that don't want us to see us in the woods. I had not had any experiences like that yet. And so for me, I knew that was a problem, that had happened to some people, including my dad, who I have never been on a hike for because of his trauma from being, from having horrible experiences in Arkansas where he grew up. So I knew it was a reality for some people, but it wasn't a reality for me yet. And so I grew up not judging Black people for not wanting to go outdoors, but I was alone a lot by myself, and I didn't like that. When I became an adult, a wife and mother, I wanted my kids to have the same relationship with nature that I had had. I had had occasional incidents at that time with racists in the woods, but they weren't exactly traumatizing to me. It didn't stop me from being outdoors. But after a couple of really scary, hateful altercations while I was with my little kids, I was pretty shaken up, and I felt kind of irresponsible for even bringing them outdoors in nature anymore. And we stopped going out the way we used to. Before I had a map of Oregon, really it was a map of Multnomah County, but the kids thought it was a big map, and they could throw a dart and we'd go anywhere on that map. And after those incidents, I started just going on planned events, like family camps, or people would say, hey, there's a church in this part of town and they're going to go camping. I didn't go there, but I would rush over and sign up and go. So we weren't really the free explorers that we used to be anymore, but we still got out. We did miss it though. I really mourned that time because we had thought of ourselves as a family of explorers, free to pick a trail, pack food, water, and our journals, and go out and explore. We would always discover something really beautiful and exciting. It might be the first patch of trillium on an early spring day. It could be a bald eagle with a wriggling fish in its talons. One time we saw a log almost completely covered with little garter snakes enjoying the sun on a warm day. So our legacy as explorers was done, preserved through our journals. We began our new legacy as family camp members, environmental students, and volunteer environmental stewards. We were usually the only Black people present, and we weren't always really welcome, but at least we felt safe. Years later, I walked into his school with my 10-year-old grandson to drop him off for day camp. The room was full of rambunctious children excited for their adventures. We heard a big crash as we were walking towards the room, and that crash was followed by utter silence. And then a child said, "Don't worry, we'll just say that brown boy did it." And they all agreed as we stood there in the hallway. My grandson's heart was pretty broken. He thought he had a room full of friends. And after that experience, he refused to go to any outings except for with me. So it showed my grandson that his peers held his skin color against him in camp the same way they did in his classroom at school. We were pretty shaken up. But this time, I wasn't gonna just stop and stay indoors or do the safe thing. I had been taking him outside since he was a baby. I had a crib in my garden, in my yard, and I would put him in it. And then when he was a little bit bigger and he could walk, we started walking. He'd be on my back in the little carrier. And I didn't want this to ruin it for him the way my kids they just didn't want to go out anymore. So I got together with him and my two little nephews who were the same age. And I started taking them out all the time from the age of 4 on. Our family calls them the tripod to this day. Started taking the tripod out, and they just loved it. We started going on road trips when they were 9, and now they're 18 and one is 19. They've graduated from high school, 2 of them a couple weeks ago, and the other one last year. And they're doing great, and they still love nature. We enjoyed our time together. Very often we were the only people on the ferry that were Black, or hiking at Opal Creek, or bird watching at Oaks Bottom, or riding the jet boat at Hell's Canyon. Wherever we went, people wanted to know what we were doing there. They didn't say that like that, "What are you doing here?" But they would say, "What program are you with?" Well, we weren't with the program. We were just a family outdoors. It happened a lot. And as the kids got older, they started wondering, why are people asking us that? Is it okay that we're here? Were we supposed to pay admission? Is this private property? And I started to understand that they were feeling the effects of a very subtle kind of racism. And they weren't feeling comfortable anymore and excited anymore about going outdoors the way they did before that. So I started to feel really alarmed. I didn't want them to not want to go out anymore the way my kids did. So I started Googling one day. I just Googled Black people hiking together. I didn't know why. I just did that. And Outdoor Afro popped up. And it's a group that helps Black people hike together or do things together to feel safe and feel welcome. And Rue Knapp was the founder. I wrote her and I said, "Hey, we don't have that here in Oregon and we really need it. I'll do it. I'll volunteer if we can start one here." And I'll skip ahead. I started the first Outdoor Afro Portland chapter. And it was a wonderful training that she had in Virginia, a really good training. And then for a couple of 2.5 years, it was just an amazing experience. But during that 2.5 years of getting Black people out into nature, I was being asked by Indigenous people, Asian people, Latino people, people from other countries, "Can I join?" because I'm having the same problem and I don't feel that safe. I don't feel that welcome, but I want to get out. It's such a beautiful place. Well, I stepped down after a couple years to take a break, and while I was resting, I was thinking about it. My members from Outdoor Afro were still asking me to start something else or come back, and I thought about it, and ultimately I did start People of Color Outdoors from there. And it has been a wonderful, wonderful time. As you already heard, we've hosted over 300 outings, from walks to camps to yoga to rock climbing. I mean, we've tried a little bit of everything. And we also have a nature education program called People of Color Outdoors Guardians, and it's for children that go out and enjoy learning about nature and how they can protect it. We're a nonprofit now as of 2020, and we have plans to someday get our own land and host retreats and education, and just have a welcoming place for everyone. Now, I want to ask you, you guys, are you spending time in nature on a regular basis? How many of you are? All right, I don't see enough hands though. Nature is not just healing for people of color, it's healing for everyone, period. Think about how you feel when you are in a location where you're listening to airplanes, traffic, yelling maybe, dogs barking, sirens, loud TV, music that's beyond that person's space and into your space. When you feel that way, when you hear that kind of noise, it can make you think negative thoughts. And whenever we're triggered to think negative thoughts, we're producing negative hormones in our bodies. It makes us feel bad. We can be made to feel bad just from hearing things, or seeing someone on the street suffering, or to see a big mess of garbage somewhere just laying there littering the ground. It can make you feel bad. And when you are exposed to that enough, it can actually lower your immune system. A lot of diseases are caused by lowered immune system, and our environment has something to do with that. When you're spending time in nature on a regular basis, the same thing happens. You hear things. You hear a bird singing. What does that do? It doesn't create a negative feeling for most people. It takes us out of our minds, and we're listening to that bird, right? And it makes you feel good, right? And when you feel good, those different hormones flood your body. I mean, we're responsive. Our bodies are responsive to our environment. And so if you see a butterfly, you know you have to watch that butterfly quickly because it's going to be gone in a minute. And so most people will watch the butterfly until they can't anymore. And during that whole time, they're feeling better. Their spirit's lifting. They're enjoying the beauty of it. When you see a patch of wildflowers, or you smell fresh pine, or you hear the breeze, and you hear the wind, or you hear water. That water's not here just for the kids to play in. That water was probably here because of the sound as well. It does something for us. It makes us feel better. If you're walking through the woods and a warm patch of sun hits your shoulder, it's going to make you feel good and smile. Or you might hear a little rustle. It's probably going to be a bunny. And you go into nature and you get pulled out of your internal thoughts, whatever they may have been, and you're focused on the moment. Now, I can't say a whole lot about this, but I know that a lot of the Japanese culture is built around nature, especially the forest. And how many of you have heard of forest bathing? That's a practice that started a long time ago, but in 1982, it became more official in Japan anyway, based on very scientific studies, measuring hormonal levels, and just a lot of science is behind it. And if you go there, or you can, people that live in Japan, if they find themselves feeling anxious and stressed out and they go to the doctor might prescribe a forest bathing time. And it's scientifically proven that after 6 hours in one day, hormonal levels change and last that long for about a week long. They last for about a week long. Or they might say you need to spend 3 days and 2 nights in the forest, camping or staying at a special place in the forest. And that the effects of that literally lower or raise the immune system and lasts for about 30 days. In Japan, there are over 60 forests that are certified forests. They're designated therapeutic woods. It's a very serious thing, and people seem to be healthy there. It seems to work. Now, we don't have to take a trip to a certified forest to get a dose of forest medicine. Here in Wilsonville, you have a lot of great places to go. You have parks, trails, the river, gardens, and if you want, you can yell out a few of your favorite places right now so other people will know where to go. Graham Nature Park. We were there last month. People of Color Outdoors. It's lovely. Silver Falls. Yes, a wonderful place to go. One or all of the falls. Yes, the National Tualatin Wildlife Refuge. Yes, off of 99. We go there frequently to birdwatch. It's a wonderful place. So you can go to any of those places and more, or you can buy some plants and get a big pot if you don't have a yard and plant it up, because any contact with nature raises that good hormonal level. Pull weeds for your elderly neighbor. They'll be happy and you will too. Walk around the block. Take your child for a walk, dog walk. Go to the park. Stand barefoot in the grass. You get my point. Nature heals, and we all need it. If you already love nature, I hope you love it a little bit more now. If you never really thought about it, I hope that you're inspired to get out more, starting today. Thank you. I have 3 of my books called Hi, My Name is Robin to give away to little kids. So the first 3 people that ask me, I'll give you one of my books.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Pamela. Thank you for your strong words. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your story. Very powerful, very deep. And I think you see that, racism has touched pretty much every entity in this country. And I commend you for staying strong and, keep going with what you love. And you didn't let racism detract you. That's very powerful, and I really appreciate you sharing your story. We all do. We all do. And that kind of provides a more powerful message. Don't let nobody detract you from what you believe in and what you feel. And when you love doing something, do it to its fullest. Don't let anybody detract you. So with that said, please stick around. We're here to about 3. Once again, I want to thank our sponsors again. Our platinum sponsors, Swire Coca-Cola, Hilton Garden Inn, and as well as Oregon Institute of Technology. Thank you for all. Go ahead. And thank you all for showing up today and providing us with your presence and time. So, give it to my man, DJ Bryson Wallace. He's gonna keep spinning on the 1s and 2s. Also want to give him a shout out. Bryson, he does DJing for all types of events. That's not an area he won't go to. So if you ever need a DJ, need some music, some good music, as you already hear, give it up for DJ Bryson Wallace. He's got an Instagram page, and I believe it's Bryson Wallace. So enjoy yourself and enjoy the fellowship. Thank you.